So one thing I like to do when I see an option set is to try to rule out certain options based on them being involved in a different disease course. So I'll look at some of the answers and say this is associated with a different disease that doesn't have to do with this question. So that's immediately not an option. That kind of narrows down the field for me.
As I look at the answer choices, I do kind of have an idea of how certain pathology may present or certain illnesses may present with characteristic findings. So if I can associate the answer choices with those particular findings or with that particular illness, then it'll help me go through the answer choices and kind of mark out the ones that I don't think are correct.
Let's now reveal the correct answer. And the key correct answer is C, protein misfolding.
Whether or not you are deciding between a couple of top things on the differential diagnosis, this answer choice applies to several of them. So it's not actually asking you to discriminate between those. So for instance, if I were answering this question, I may have placed Alzheimer's, dementia, and potentially prion disease at the top of my differential. And the things that make me think prion disease is that there are these characteristic motor findings, such as facial twitching, or in what a neurologist may call this is myoclonus, perhaps, and the fact that there are sensory findings as well. Prion disease is very specific to the CNS, but it's non-specific in that it attacks basically all types of central processes, motor, cognitive, sensory, and higher functions such as planning, cognition, mood. And so these are the things that make me think prion disease. But you know what? Thankfully, that is not really the intent of this question, is to discriminate between those. And so whether you thought it was Alzheimer's or prion disease, like sporadic Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, you would have probably arrived at the right answer.
Thank you, Dr. Nori. Let us now look at the item analysis stats for this. So this could lead to a discussion of what you may have put as your second choice here. As you see in the item analysis statistics, about 300 students saw this question in this administration. 82% got it correct. It had a positive discrimination. And most people did in fact go for C, although the second most popular option was B. Any thoughts about that?
Choice B is almost there, but that if we are if one of the objectives of this exam is to help students arrive at the single best answer, then the answer would be C, as most people selected. However, B is not completely wrong. However, choice C is sort of taking it a step further than that. And so that is why C is the right answer. That we're going for the post-translational modification in something like prion disease actually is what ends up leading to the protein misfolding and then the accumulation in neurons and then the subsequent massive cell death. So I think that's probably why choice B is the second most frequently selected.
You may find in many cases on clinical items that there are going to be 2, possibly 3 other options that have components of the clinical presentation, but not all the components that lead you to the correct answer. And that's one of the ways we end up having positive discrimination in individuals who are better performers on the total exam versus not. But again, we have to do this in a way that's not confusing to students and is not misleading. And certainly that's always something we have to think about as we do item analysis and start looking at the quality assurance processes that happen for these exam items.
As instructors, as item writers, and as the NBME, speaking for the whole group, our goal for students is not necessarily to have them memorize the nuances of something so rare like prion disease, but rather recognize the things that they're most likely going to encounter in clinical practice. the top one being Alzheimer's disease. Our goal is to prepare future doctors and the medical workforce of the future. We are all much better served in having you learn about something common that you're going to see frequently than, a zebra, so to speak.
That's a great point. Common things are common for a generalist exam or otherwise, but certainly there are uncommon things that can be profoundly devastating to an individual that may end up being part of an exam because it's important not to miss those things. Certainly in terms of future planning and prognostication, the difference between Alzheimer's dementia and say a Creutzfeldt-Jakob or prion disease could be profound, and that would be a reason it may end up on an examination.